and welcome to today's webinar. Today we're going to cover reducing rework in Microsoft Purview by aligning the architecture and governance. My name is Angela Eberle and I'm a solutions architect here with Idera, and I'm happy to spend the next 45 minutes or so with you guys. And today we're going to be exploring how integrating Microsoft Purview with ERStudio Enterprise Edition helps reduce rework by aligning governed business definitions, ownership, and standards directly with physical database design and data products. We'll wrap up with a live demo inside of ERStudio and Purview, where you'll see how stronger alignment between governance and architecture reduces rework, semantic drift, improves collaboration across your teams, and establishes a repeatable approach where governance guides design from the start. But before we dive in, a couple quick housekeeping notes. We are using GoToMeeting today, so your microphones are muted by default. If you have questions, feel free to drop them in the questions panel at any time. I'll try to save some time at the end to walk through the questions, and I'll keep an eye out during the session as well. But the session is being recorded, so if you'd like a recording or a copy of the recording or the deck afterwards, just let us know in the chat. Now, today's agenda, we're going to be, showing how design once with governed definitions can help avoid rework, align meaning and implementation early to eliminate that downstream rework, also while improving your collaboration across your enterprise, to help with your modernized platform initiatives with governance embedded, not after the fact. And then we'll move into that technical demonstration and questions at the end. So here you see, we have a slide, and most organizations build physical structures first, and then governance tries to catch up later in Purview or other governance tools. That's when you see renaming, conflicting definitions, duplicate glossary terms, and reclassification exercises. But what this slide shows is a different approach. At the top, you'll see we've established those reusable patterns with enterprise conceptual and logical models that define your core business entities. Easy for me to say this morning. Like your customer, your order, your product. These patterns are aligned with Purview's business glossary, which means that business meaning defined in Purview isn't separate from this architecture. It's embedded in the enterprise model. Enterprise definitions, if they are not standardized, each domain will reinterpret them differently, and Purview becomes a reconciliation exercise, hence the rework. You'll also notice the arrows here are bi-directional. It's not just a one-time sync, it is ongoing. Governance informs design, and design reinforces that governance. When governance and architecture are connected like this at this level, semantic drift is drastically reduced. When a new data product is requested, for example, like a commission data product, we don't reinvent employee or commission from scratch. We inherit that governed pattern like this here in the down arrow coming from that logical model. We inherit that governed pattern, and reinvention, which is one of the biggest drivers of rework, doesn't happen. So before that physical model is deployed and scanned into Purview, the naming standards and ownership and structural consistency is already embedded in that, and rework disappears. If every domain built its own version of employee or client or order, like you see here, Purview would then become that reconciliation exercise. People are going in and changing things to match what the model says instead of people, building this into the model beforehand. So, if you have that inherited reusable pattern, Purview becomes a confirmation mechanism. So reusable architecture isn't just a design preference, it should be a governance strategy. And, patterns and so forth would, reinvention wouldn't happen, so the rework would be reduced across those domains. So here we have, the business glossary from Purview is, flowing into, sorry about this, I'm getting the pop-up. So structure alone isn't enough. We need that govern meeting. So here we see, the slide shows that the business meeting flows from Purview into those enterprise models, down into those domain models, and ultimately into these physical assets here. And you can do that across multiple platforms. If this flow is broken at any point, semantic drift begins. And when Purview scans those assets, governance teams are forced to reconcile differences between what was defined and what was built. What ERStudio enables is alignment from this glossary into those enterprise conceptual and logical models all the way down to that physical asset layer. And this gets deployed and reflects those governed definitions. It's reducing that rework after the fact. If each platform interprets the business meaning differently, governance becomes reactive and expensive. If the meaning flows consistently, like you see here, to the asset, governance can scale without any cleanup. Alignment across the glossary, enterprise model, and domain models and assets is what eliminates this semantic rework in Purview. And here we see, data as a product, and we can scale this across the domains as pictured here, because rework multiplies when alignment breaks down at scale. Data products don't create rework, misaligned data products do. The full life cycle of a data product within each domain is shown here, starting at that business glossary, going all the way down to that domain level asset. So rework happens when these 4 layers are disconnected. So if at any point these layers are broken, if the glossary defines product one way, but that data product entry interprets it differently, or if the contract isn't aligned to those enterprise definitions and the physical model as well, Purview becomes that reconciliation exercise again. What ERStudio enables is the alignment across these layers as you see pictured here before that asset is deployed, which means Purview catalogs the data product and it's validating governance, not correcting it. Rework multiplies across domains because governance isn't embedded in that product lifecycle. So reducing rework looks like one aligned flow from business meaning to that deployed asset across domains. No reinterpretation, no reinvention, and no post-deployment rework. All of this requires an operational backbone, not just diagrams. So what we're going to show today is the enterprise edition of ERStudio partnered with Purview. And it's made up of 3 pillars. The data architect, which you see here, everything we've talked about so far depends on this one thing, coordination. Reducing that rework isn't just about modeling correctly, it's about ensuring all your stakeholders work from the same governed source of truth. This is where governance is embedded into that design. So you create those conceptual and logical and physical models here, but you're also applying those naming standards, the business terms, owners, and keeping everything in sync with that compare and merge function. That is where alignment begins. If this step here is disconnected from governance, then rework happens. Then we move into our repository. Modeling alone doesn't prevent the rework. Our repository allows for you to be able to model share, do the version controls, and change management, which also prevents the rework over time. uncontrolled change management is one of the biggest sources of Purview rework. You have people going out and making rogue changes without following the process, and that in turn costs time and money in the end. And then our final piece is our team server web portal. This is where the Purview bridge and connection is, and this is where the architecture meets that governance and the business stakeholders with the model publishing, your glossary, data catalog, and collaboration across your entire, organization, from the software engineers to your business analysts and so forth, your data owners and stewards. Instead of governance discovering inconsistencies after deployment, your stakeholders are participating before that deployment. Earlier, we saw, how the glossary definitions flow into those enterprise models and into the domain products, the data products. This slide shows the infrastructure that makes that flow sustainable and operational. Reducing rework requires more than just that good modeling. It requires governed collaboration, reducing, and then here, to finalize that purpose-built integration with Purview, allows that to be able to flow and produce that governed collaboration. So now I'm going to show you how this works in practice, starting with a governed term in Purview and tracing it into the metadata model data product rather. I'm going to jump into Purview. We're going to start in Purview with the unified catalog. We're going to come in and start at the data product level. We've been asked to kind of generate a commission data product. And so here, if we go into this data product, right from the beginning, you're going to see this description. You're going to see, who owns this. So sales owns this. You can see who created this. This data product represents how commissions are calculated and distributed. And the ownership matters because rework usually starts when the definitions aren't aligned here. And you can scroll down and see the business terms that were associated with this. And that defines that commission logic. If engineering builds a physical model that doesn't reflect these definitions, Purview will later show that misalignment, and that requires rework. So that begins that rework journey. So the question is, how do we make sure this model reflects the meaning before deployment? And we do that by going to come into Team Server, and I'm going to open up that model, the employee commissions data product model. And then here you can see the model, and part of Team Server Core is, it's interactive, but no one can change it. So the models are static as far as that goes and protected from anyone making rogue changes here. And if we go into this commission payment entity here, you see lots of information here tied to this entity. You've got your attributes, attachments, where it's used here. So your business stakeholders, your technical team, all of these folks have access to be able to come in and see all of this information tied to this entity. You can also see here that you have the option to open in Purview. And Calibra here. So you can take this straight into Purview and be able to see everything about this entity there as well. Now we're talking about preventing rework in Purview here, but obviously we have a data catalog and glossaries and such created in Purview. But if you're here and just starting your journey with Purview and you're trying to get those glossaries and terms created, we can help you with that too by this harvest terms feature over on the right. You can harvest terms from these logical models and create those definitions and take those into Purview to start your journey with the data governance and aligning all of that together. So we not only help with rework once you've already started with governance, but we help with it at the beginning of the journey as well by keeping you from having to manually create those glossaries and terms. Now here on the right, you can see we can find those related business terms that we saw in Purview. So here we have that commission payment and the commission payment value tied to this entity in Team Server Core. And if we click in on this term commission payment, you also see all the information tied to that term. You can see the definition, if it has aliases that can be used, sensitivity levels, and security regulations. All of that information is here for everyone to see and read and educate themselves on. Again, you have the ability to open this straight into Purview as well, so that connectivity is there. Along with that, you can see the related information. You can see that complete ontology here. The ontology shows these concepts relate to the commission payment, is dependent on that payment value and the employee. So you can see that ontology here. And then also here with the children, you're able to see the taxonomy. So these are related. Now, another way to see all the objects that it's related to, if we click related objects, you have the ability to then see this commission payment term is related to several models. You have the enterprise data warehouse, you have the HR data product that we're looking at here, your corporate logical model. So here we're talking about that connection and consistency across your data ecosystem. So this will in turn reduce that rework in Purview when you have this consistency across your layers. Now with this, we're going to transition into ERStudio and see how this gets into those models. So how we get that business meaning into your model from the beginning, from a physical design standpoint. So if we go into ERStudio, now remember also before I jump there was this description, and earlier to save some time, I took this description of what they were needing and I put that into our AI model builder here. And it generated a physical model or logical model from that description there. So our AI model builder can help you get started if it's something that you're creating from scratch and you don't have any particular pieces from a corporate logical model, so to speak, that you're wanting to do. This is what our AI model builder generated from that text, from that business, friendly text. So I like to highlight that. But what we're going to be doing today, this HR data product for the commissions, this is what we're going to be using today. And we didn't reinvent here. What we did was we took and used our compare and merge utility and created this model from our corporate logical data model. You'll see employee here, commission payment, and order are all here in this corporate logical model and part of that sales submodel. So you can see we reused corporate entities to create this data product for commission. So there, we're not reinventing things, we're keeping consistent data products across our data entities across our build outs. Now with that, if we click on this data model tab, you'll see that logical model and physical model tree on the left, and you'll see there's a couple of different physical models here. And our tool, the logical model, is database agnostic, so that is a differentiator for us. We allow the multiple physical models to a single logical model. So if you're deploying to different platforms, you have that ability here without having to switch to new files and such. So as we jump into this commission payment entity, what I want to highlight is this glossary tab. And here is where we are able to connect those business terms that come over from Purview into Team Server Core and now into this logical design. So we have these two business terms associated with this entity commission payment. And then also, if we look at the attributes, you have the ability to assign those glossary business terms at the attribute level as well. So you maintain that consistency throughout your modeling journey. And then as we move into the other pieces that help with reducing rework, if we cancel out of this and we click this data dictionary tab, you'll see there's lots of different folder structures here. But the data dictionary speaks to those reusable domains, naming standards that can be utilized to further embed that consistency into your models and reduce rework. So here, as you're modeling out, you can do those corporate naming standards so that people keep consistent names across the logical and physical models for your environments, as well as the reusable domains help with consistency and change management if you're wanting to keep things with consistent data types and so forth, which of course not only saves time, but also saves that rework. And then you'll notice here, we have the locks on this particular model. It was stored in the repository, which you can check in and check out. But the other thing that we spoke about was being able to control those rogue changes. And utilizing this repository, you do have the ability to see the version history and who changed what and what they did. And then you have the ability to create named releases here, which there again helps control those changes and that process to minimize the rework after the fact. And then the one final thing that helps with that as well is the universal mapping feature that allows you to track things back through from that enterprise level data into the physical asset. So here is that where used, which reflects some of those universal mappings here. So you can see that upstream and downstream impact of any changes that might need to be made later on in this particular model. So you have that ability to see that history and lineage. Now here we've come to the end. It's about 30 minutes instead of an hour today, but basically what we've captured and shown is that enterprise alignment with Purview equals less rework in Purview. So you have that less semantic drift, you have less metadata duplication, you have faster data product delivery and higher trust in the data products. And then consistency and collaboration reduces that rework. I'm going to look to see if we had any questions today. And I do not see any at the moment. If you have any questions, we can take some time now to answer those if you want to put those in the questions. I'd be happy to answer anything that you have. Okay, well, with that, I appreciate your time today. And if you would like to have any questions answered later or would like to see a more detailed demo and personalized to your needs, please reach out to sales@idera.com and we'd be happy to schedule a demo with one of our solutions architects. And I hope you have a great rest. Oh, we have a couple of questions coming in. Cool. Great. We do have integration with Databricks, being able to reverse engineer and support the models out in Databricks. Informatica is, we have some bridges, I think, for that, but as far as the like Purview and Calibra from a data governance tool, that is on our list of things that we want to do in the future, some integration with that. And then, yes, you will get a copy of the recording, Michael. Any other questions? Well, guys, I hope you have a great rest of your day, and thank you for taking time out to join us. Hopefully this helped see how we can help with the Purview integration and reduce some rework on that side of things.